Okay, we're going to try this again. So, welcome to Aspire and to this live. Um, we are living in such crazy times, and my background is in government and law, like a lot of you know, and I thought it's about time to try to help everyone understand what's happening now from a governmental legal perspective, right? The two things that I hear all the time are one, oh my goodness, how can I homeschool and what can I do, right? Which is what we do at Aspire. However, so much of that is tied to, okay, look, I want to take control back of my child's education, but that also means I would love to have our schools back the way they were. Now, there are a lot of layers to this, by the way. So I'm going to start with the education piece a little bit on a higher level, which is not only are we dealing with masks, but parents are starting to understand and see all the other things that are going on in the schools, including critical race theory, the sex education laws that have now been passed, and what they're teaching your children as young as kindergarten. So even though today I'm going to talk about, the government, this federal government, the state government, localities, and a little bit how that works, so I can hopefully convey a better understanding of why you seem to be getting mixed messages sometimes, to try to help you understand our government and how it breaks things down. I also just want to point out that I'm very happy actually that a lot of this is taking place, because it's helping all of us and a lot of parents, especially all of you parents whose kids are in public school, to really take a hard look at what's been happening in your own district. So having said all that, like I tell this, making sense of the mandates and the masks. Okay, so let me start with basics. So a lot of you who might be watching this may already know all this, but bear with me because I think is important for everyone to kind of understand. So the way our government system works is we have a federal government and we have state governments, okay? And we have a federalism system where everybody says, well, federal law trumps state law. Well, to some extent, yes, we have a provision in the Constitution that that's the case if there's a direct conflict. However, the way our system is designed, it is also very, very clear that the federal government cannot just step in arbitrarily and take over, right, states' rights. Okay, so we have this separation of powers built into our government and our system of checks and balances. And people hear that phrase and they've heard that phrase, but here I'm going back to our school system has done a horrible job, a really horrible job of helping the citizenry, the citizens of the United States really know and understand the way it works. And that serves them well in times like this. Okay, to know and understand what your rights are very, very important. Our founding fathers have said over and over and over again, documented, right? The reason education is important, one of the key reasons it's important, is to understand, your country and to understand what you have your hands on, right? As Ben Franklin said, I think the lure is, and I'm not sure if it's ever been documented, I haven't seen that, but the mayor of Philadelphia's wife was walking by as they were finishing up in the Constitutional Convention. She said, "Sir, what do we have?" Because of course, everyone's wanting to know what is going to come out of this, right? And Benjamin Franklin looks at her and he says, "We have a republic, madam, if we can keep it." Right? And the idea there being that we all have to work and understand what we have our hands on, and we have to be able to stand up for our rights. Okay, so having said all of that, what's been happening here is that you have got a situation where not only are you dealing with the federal government, the president, issuing, using emergency powers, which yes, is legal, is constitutional, right, in a state of emergency, but you also have that same power that's given to governors, right? Because there has to be some sort of way that in a true emergency situation, a governor can say, oh, okay, we don't have time to go through the normal proper channels of passing a law. So for a short period of time, as the governor of this state, and by the way, every state's laws are different. So when I'm speaking here, I'm trying to be more general. Okay, so every law has specifics, and you can go find this, the emergency powers of the governors. But in most states, you're going to have also the governor acting in conjunction with. So the governor can't just say, oh, I woke up this morning and, I feel like I'm going to, call a state of emergency for the next 30 days. Because that, by the way, that is a very common time frame for emergency powers is 30 days. The reason that 30 days is given is because that is plenty of time to bring the state legislature, the General Assembly of the state together, the lawmakers that you and I have elected to serve us, to come together and say, now let's take a look at this. Is this really a state of emergency? What is going on? And what should be done about it to limit the intrusions on our personal freedoms, because I know that's important to me when I elect my officials. Okay. So the governor of every state has that ability, right, to use those emergency powers in conjunction with, usually, because most often it's going to be a state of emergency, some health situation like we've been experiencing, where they say, okay, time out. We're getting all this information from the federal government because they have access to more information than we do. We're getting information, and this is not looking good, right? So even though there is that separation of powers, I mean, obviously our governors can look to the federal government for guidance or look for that. But in the laws of each state, most of the time, it will say, especially in a health state of emergency, that the governor must be acting in conjunction with the state's public health agency. So remember, in most states, a governor's role is as a check on the state legislature, right? Can sign into law a bill or send it back or basically veto it. But other than that, it's to oversee the state agencies. Okay, so that it would include like public health. So there's that correlation, right? The governor has to be doing this, and there has to be some grounding in it. But in most states, after that 30 days, the governor can't just keep declaring a state of emergency on his own. It doesn't matter if he's working in conjunction with the public health or not. You can't just keep issuing this stuff. Governors also do not have the authority outside of that limited time frame. Governors do not have the authority to step in and mandate that localities in their state do something. Okay, especially when it deals with schools. Okay, so for example, here in Illinois, we are what I call a very decentralized state, because it comes down. But in a lot of states, you might have like a county board for the schools, right, that oversees has more oversight. But in our state, for example, when it comes to whether or not there is a requirement or a mask mandate in a school, the governor has no say. When a governor, Pritzker, says, oh, I'm mandating this, it's a recommendation. And he can say why he can say that all he wants. It is a recommendation. Okay. Now, here's where things differ among the states. I'm going to give you 2 examples. So now you've got, the governor saying things, unless a law has been passed. And here's an example. And this is why sometimes I think people are getting confused, because some states have now passed a law. They have gone through the entire process where the elected officials have made a choice and made a decision on a statewide basis. Okay. So using Florida as an example, and Governor DeSantis, okay, they have actually passed a law, right? So that there is the capacity for him, right, that he can issue, or he did what's called an executive order, okay, that he can sign into law an executive order, right, to suspend restrictions, which is what he did, that these local school boards have been doing. So an executive order kind of goes up another level, right? So what happened is, though, here's the key. It's legislative. It's a legislative initiative. So what it said is the legislature is giving power. Does that make sense? So you don't have one man essentially standing up there going, this is what we're going to do, no matter who it's in conjunction with. You now have involved the whole General Assembly, the whole process, right? So, for example, here in Illinois, after Pritzker decided to continue doing these emergency orders, which was also around the country, a lot of them did, we had a state legislature, amazing man, Darren Bailey, who said, this is illegal. This is against the Illinois state constitution, by the way. Some people don't realize that. There's the federal constitution, which does trump, state constitutions, but your state has a constitution. Your state has laws that have been passed by officials you've elected. Okay, there's a reason for that. And I want to say right here, this is why it is so important that you vote in and pay attention to local elections. It is vitally important, and that you really, really, really vet, okay, who it is you're voting for. I say this all the time to my government students: don't watch this hand and what they're saying, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is who I am, because often you've got to watch what this hand is doing back here, because what their actions are speak so much louder than their words. Okay. So you want to look at, their record, if they've been in state legislature, what they've actually supported, what they've done. Quite honestly, we have a former Republican governor whose wife was so embedded in the Democratic Party and doing things that were not in keeping with what he was saying, right? That, and you've got to know that's going to matter. Our current governor keeps talking all this stuff about how important it is to, to have these mandates and to make kids wear masks in school, while his own family lives in Florida. Remember that Governor DeSantis thing I was mentioning? Yeah, Governor DeSantis in Florida has blocked, through the appropriate way, allowing localities to have mask mandates. Now, the key here, because it's our government and our country and what's important to us, is that we have a choice. I am not saying that parents shouldn't have the choice. That's exactly what matters here. If a parent feels more confident and comfortable with their child wearing a mask, awesome, do it. That's great. But it's about having the choice. So here you've got to watch what they're doing, not what they're saying, right? So you've got an Illinois governor who's, willy-nilly throwing all this stuff out and, saying that you have to wear a mask in school for everyone's safety, while his family's living in Florida, where it is one of the most open states there is. Okay, are you watching this hand and this mouth, or are you watching this hand here? Okay, so just one example. All right. It is so important to just understand, right, the steps here. So I was just sharing about, the governor level, right? So state level. And now you're coming down to school boards. And let me say this, those in Illinois and in many, many states, a school board is a volunteer position. And I have to say, no matter whether no matter what their personal views are on this, they are there to serve their district or county, depending on your state and how it's laid out, right? But let me say this, to serve in a position like that, it can be scary, right? Because you've got a situation where you're feeling like, okay, this is very charged, and I don't want to personally put me and my family on the line legally. And I wouldn't be surprised. As a matter of fact, I've heard rumors of this, and I've heard actually lawmakers say this. So that's where I'm getting this information, that school board members are being told they could be personally liable, that they could be held personally responsible for the decisions that they make. Let's say if they say no, masks are your choice, and there's some outbreak, and that people could just come after them. That is so not true. That is not true. As a matter of fact, as when I was a local prosecutor here, oh, and by the way, let me say this, none of this is legal advice at all, zero, no legal advice. But when I was a local prosecutor here, we dealt with it all the time because we represented villages. And when you're acting in your official capacity in a governmental position, you have immunity for those choices and decisions because you are acting on behalf of and for this exact situation, which has its pros and cons, by the way, but for right now, that's the way it stands. Okay. So that is so not true. But I want you guys to understand that element because there are a lot of passions here. So speaking clearly, directly, with passion is fine, but not like tirades and screaming. But being passionate is totally fine, and being clear about what you feel. But just understand that there is that element for the school board, right? And for your school board members. But I also am appreciative of this because those are elected positions in most places. I'm trying to think of a state that I know of that it's not. Guys, now you're seeing why local elections are huge. I get very frustrated here in my state when I'm looking at a ballot that is filled with judge positions where there's nobody up against them. You have no choice. All of the layers matter. All of our branches of government matter. We have got to do a better job of paying attention to all of the local elections. And this, you're seeing exactly why. So those school boards, and going back to the hierarchy here, your school district does have autonomy, right? And you, again, you want to look at the laws of your own state and look at, how it's broken down in your state. But in general, when you come down from the state level and you get down to the county or school district level, they are not, like, for instance, in Illinois, they are not bound legally to follow a governor's mandate that's outside of that legal emergency powers, which we're well outside of now. Okay. They can choose to not follow that recommendation. They absolutely can. Now, there are a couple of nuances here that I want to throw out to you, just to kind of give you a heads up, but also just to give you some ideas here on where this mask issue, because that's something that keeps coming up, and the vaccine actually falls under one of these very clearly. But there are a couple of ways that your school district could categorize, right, a mask. It could be, one way would be as part of their dress code. Okay, so there are some states, and I believe I was reading about this at one point. I know there were a school district in Georgia, I think one of the Atlanta ones, okay, where that's how they categorized it, that it falls under their dress code policy, right? And so that's how they're going to do it. I think that's a little ridiculous, to be honest with you, because if you look at the rationale behind it, it is more medical, right? So for example, here in Illinois, it is being done for medical reasons, which is true around the country. Okay. So for example, here in Illinois, if there is a medical issue, which masks are medical, and absolutely this vaccine, or, getting the needle for this, and I, anyway, it is a medical device. It is something for medical reasons. And if that's the case, there are two ways, right, that you can force that. One is parental consent, right? So if you don't give your child parental consent, then, or say, yes, my child can wear a mask, the only other way in Illinois, again, every state's different, is by court order. Okay, so somebody would have to go in and enforce this against your child by court order to make that happen. Okay, and that's just not going to happen. So let's say you say, no, my child's not wearing a mask, and you send them into school, and there's no court order against your child that they have to do this, and the school says, that's it, you're expelled until you come back with a mask. Well, another law here in Illinois says you're required to provide an education to every single student between this age and this age, and of this caliber, and in these subjects, and in English. Well, now you've just denied that, right? The school has now denied that. So there's nothing legal about that in any way, shape, or form. Okay. As a matter of fact, I just heard, if you're here in Illinois and you're watching, I think I just read, and I haven't been able to follow up on it yet this morning. Life has been super crazy right now, and at midnight I was done. But I did hear, I think, that Thomas DeVore, who is an attorney downstate in Illinois, follow him on Facebook. Honestly, just pay attention to him. I think he filed a lawsuit yesterday. That's what I think I read. Okay. But again, I haven't read the filing or read any of the grounds or any of that. But I wanted to give you guys just a little bit more of an understanding of the fact that please do not just take at face value what you see and hear in the mainstream media and assume that just because a governor uses that word and there's a mandate doesn't mean that it is a law or that it's legal. I mean, when the governor here in Illinois kept issuing this 30-day emergency, as I said, Darren Bailey, who is currently running for governor, he filed suit as a state legislator and said, hold on a second, this is unconstitutional. And by the way, he won, right? And the court said, yeah, this is unconstitutional against the Illinois Constitution and illegal, and filed an injunction. Did everybody in the state recognize that for what it was and make their decisions accordingly? And businesses, were bullied into staying closed, and all the people were basically bullied into it. And I say that not because, again, if your choice if that was your choice and to stay home and it was ours for a while, I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I was in that category, right? But once you kind of see and understand how this works, that decision after that first 30 days needed to go to the legislature. And that doesn't mean the legislature wouldn't have come back and said, yeah, now we're looking at this in our constituencies and we're okay with it. Great, then go through the procedures, right? And if you don't like the way your representative is voting and what their choices are, oh, please, please, please pay attention to your local elections coming up this year. Please pay attention to that. As you can see, this, I hope this is waking up so many people. When I taught my government class, I am total geek about the Constitution and government, obviously. And, I would have students come into my class and literally say, Mama D, I want you to know I'm a socialist. I'm like, okay, cool. Do you know what that means? Let's unravel that, right? And every single one of those kids, except one that I can think of, left going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I didn't understand. And so many people my age don't get it. Right. And I didn't sit there and preach or say this is better, that's better. I'm going to share this resource with you. It's called The 5,000 Year Leap. Please get the book. Please read it. I cannot stress that enough. Every American should. It's the 28 founding principles underlying our Constitution. And it is so powerful. It uses a lot of primary source documents and references, which is why I like it. But it also is so powerful because it highlights where currently we're not following most of those principles and we're not getting it and understanding. Okay. And once you hand that book to a 14, 15, 16, 17, they get it. They get it. I can't tell you how many over the years, how many parents would say, I had no idea. We all would put your class on the TV and sit and watch together because I didn't know any of this and I didn't learn this and I had no idea. Okay. So I hope that this morning, I don't want to go too long and burden you guys too much with this, but I really want you to understand that there is a separation of powers. There is a government process here. Now, that you really in your state, and there are so many resources out there now that you can try to find that, you can look it up, you can look up the laws in your state, that you can see, okay, I can do this or I can't, or feel confident in it. Okay. I want so much to empower all of us to really just stand up, and we have got to do it now. We have got to do it now. You need to understand that. Please, I beg of you, get involved in your local government. Here's the problem. We've taken that word government and substituted politics. Nobody likes politics. I can't stand politics. And I literally grew up basically on Capitol Hill, and I love the government. I love everything about our country in terms of what our founding fathers put in place. Is it perfect? No. Is it frustrating at times? Yes. Is it flawed? Yes. But there's a process there. And we truly live in the greatest country, used to be, in the world. Now, people come over here and go, whoa, especially if they've lived in a communist or socialist country and go, how can, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who've said, how do you Americans not see what's going on and what's happening? Like, it's happened over and over and over in the world. Well, that's because we haven't lived it, right? And so I am telling you, do not despair, but you've got to take charge right now. You have got to step up. It is not about politics. It is about your rights and our government. Don't let, the whole dirty, nasty games that are being played all over the place get to you, right? There are so many millions and millions and millions of good people, you and me, who love our families, who want what's best for our families. We have got to, common sense, stand up and go, wait a minute, this makes zero logical sense. Forget what the laws say. This makes zero logical sense. So if the laws are saying this is okay, then we need to change the laws. And again, that starts locally, and it starts with every branch. It starts with your elected judges, and who's appointing them. If it's appointed, it's your state government, your local government. Here in Illinois, like I said, we have villages, right? And have local elected officials in many states, right? You've got mayors. Pay attention. That is where it matters. We already talked about your school boards. Get involved. There are so many amazing parents right now who are forming even political action committees. There's that word again, but all that means is they're forming and getting together to put people on school boards and put people around who are like you and me, who are fed up, who are saying, this is not okay for my family and for my kids, and this needs to change. Right here locally, I've just started working with an amazing group of people here locally. If you're watching in the Barrington area, check out Suburban Action Pack, okay, and what they're doing. And they're just trying to inform everyone. They're trying to get candidates that are going to pay attention to what families want, right? On another level, right here locally, guys, Jeannie Ives, who is amazing, who ran for governor against Rauner, who just ran in a ridiculously closely contested, and I firmly believe won, race here for U.S. Congress. She has an organization, a grassroots advocacy group, right? Get involved, be involved, and pay attention and find these, okay? Find these people who are getting together on Facebook. I just love it. I've met so many moms recently who are just stepping up and like, look, I don't know, but I know something has to change. So they start a Facebook group for their district. And it started by rallying around like not having our kids wear masks in school because the science doesn't support that. Just saying, because everybody loves to say the science. And by the way, can I just say from a logic perspective, the current science, what we know, right? And the science behind this is specifically, we don't know very much, just throwing that out there, with respect to the shot that's going around. But these moms are standing up and just saying, hold on a second. We need to do something here. We need to change this. That's incredible. That is amazing, right? And I bet there's those in your state, you've got those. Okay, there's a national organization called Moms for Liberty, and I've been looking more and more into it. I think one of the first local chapters here, there's a mom that's starting that I hope she continues, because I'll definitely be a part of it. There are so many ways that you can get involved. Please get involved. It is not politics. It is government. It is you exercising your freedoms and your rights that you still have. And can you tell? I want to keep them. And I want us all to know that we have these rights. And I want you to be able to be empowered to just stand up and say, this is not okay. It's not okay, but you don't have to be alone. You are not alone. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to end for today because I just said 10 minutes ago I was going to end. All right. Yes, I'm just a little bit passionate about this topic. I hope this has helped. You know, guys, let me know if you need me to explain more, if you want me to go more in depth, if you want to learn a little bit more about this, if you want to hear more about homeschooling, you can also go to our website, aspireeducation.us, or on here. I'm happy to just, come on and share different things with you. I've been doing online workshops And I'm going to do 2 more later this week. And I'm trying to go locally, if you're local, to talk to groups as much as I can with the time I have. But also, you know, I'm starting a community group where I'm going to build community. I'm only in each group, there's only 30 families to really help build some community in there and have a safe space where not only will I inform you and help walk you through all the steps of homeschooling and beyond, but you'll also have me every other week. It's 13-week chunks where you can do it for 13 weeks and then decide if you want to re-up or not. That is, you can find that on our website too. I would love to have you. Like I said, once we hit 30 in a group, I'll start another group. We'll start a wait list. And when we get, you know, to a critical point, then I'll open another group. Please, 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 if that's not something you're looking for and you've got local support, talk to them. But there are resources and you are not alone. You are not alone. Okay. As you can see, you'll, if you're in my group, you'll get a whole lot more and than just on homeschooling with my background and what I've done and working with families over the last 5 years, but also with my government. So maybe that's a pro or a con, I don't know, but you know, I just, God bless you guys. I hope this has helped. Like I said, drop a comment here or email us at hello@aspireeducation.us and let us know. We're here to serve you and to help walk with you through all of this. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Take care. I'll see you next week.